Welcome to another edition of the Eye on Life podcast. It is go time on another edition, show number 31, and we're thrilled to have Jay Asadi back with us. Jay was on. You were actually, I think, one of my first guests.
Yes.
And we had a great interview a while back. So as I've said to a few of the other guests, I'm glad I did not scare you away so much to the point that you decided not to come back. I always feel like it's a good thing when the guests come back. I've said that before, because it shows that you're not completely incompetent in what you do.
Okay.
And especially today too, you were actually extra patient because, and nobody will know this unless I state it here, but we've had some technical problems. It's been a weird week.
Yes.
From a technology standpoint. I've had several technology issues this week, and I think I've spoken to a lot of people out there who have had weeks, and usually when it rains, it pours, right?
Yes.
I've spoken to a lot of people who have had the same thing where it's like they can go weeks with nothing. Zoom works, computer works, everything works.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you have a week where it seems that nothing works. Have you been technologically impaired at all, or are you pretty much lucked out?
No. Listen, I had issues with my studio. I had to get a new laptop. My what's called hard drive went, it just crapped the bed. So I had to wait like a month to get a new computer because it was under warranty. I had to wait for the company to send that. Then my microphone. I just been having some crazy stuff. It's like everything went through 2020.
It's like technology mirrors life.
Right.
It's uncertain. It's crazy. It's unpredictable, right? And I thought, I don't know if there was sometimes, there's that whole thing about having a full moon. I thought I saw a fairly large moon. I don't know if it was full this week.
Okay.
But I know sometimes people tend to act a little strange, and things have a tendency to act up a little bit when there is a full moon. I'm not really that superstitious of a person. Are you a superstitious person? Like, do you have?
I guess you can call it that, but I've seen things. So yeah, you can call me superstitious.
And we're gonna do a show on this at some point. We're gonna have some experts on superstition on the show at some point. What would you say is your biggest superstition?
Oh, that's a good one, man. That's an interesting question. I don't know. I just go with the if you have something in your gut feeling, you hear it, and if it don't feel right, you got to trust your gut. That's the biggest one. So if I go into a situation and my gut starts telling me something ain't right, you can call it superstition, you can call it whatever. I follow my gut.
I agree with you. I don't know if that. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I don't necessarily see myself as being superstitious, but if I have a feeling, I don't believe like where I sit on the couch determines the outcome of a Giants game. I don't think like if I eat something before a certain event that it's going to change the impact or the final conclusion of whatever that event. I just don't feel that way. But sometimes I do have a gut. I don't know if that's superstition. I don't know if that's considered superstition or not. But nonetheless, I know some people are very superstitious. I do want to explore that a little bit more. But anyway, you're listening to the Eye on Life podcast. And talking to Jay Asadi, who is a musician, rapper, entrepreneur, artist. You're a little bit of everything.
Yes.
And you have an intriguing story. Every lyric that you write, every beat that you compile is meaningful to you in many ways. And so we're going to talk a little. We talked about that on the first show, but we're going to kind of evolve the conversation a little bit today. Before we get started, I do just want to thank mustny.com, COVID masks. They're entrepreneurs like yourself, right? Chris and Monica Perez Bossard out in Western New York still wear those masks. Have you gotten vaccinated yet? Have you?
Oh yeah, I got my first shot last Thursday, and I'm waiting to go back April 15th to get my vaccination.
I think I'm on the same schedule as you. I think around the same time. So we're heading in the right direction, but we're still wearing the masks. And if you're going to wear a mask, I certainly suggest the comfort and fashion of mustny.com. And I also want to shout out. We've had some new listeners this week. I think I may have shouted them out a while back, but Manhattan had a really big spike in downloads from Manhattan. So I've been hearing good things about it. What's happening in New York these days because COVID? That was a ground zero for COVID. So I love New York. I'm an upstate New Yorker. I love New York City. I love Manhattan. I love the whole city. So I'm glad that things are starting to pick up economically, touristy, all that in New York. So let's get to it, Jay. And I want to ask you a question because the last time we spoke, it was still during the pandemic.
Right.
We had talked about some of the lyrics to some of your songs. Some of the inspiration, some of the experiences that you've had that have been, that inspiration for the lyrics that are very, some of them, we talked about this, are very deep.
Yeah.
They're very dark, and I think that's what makes your music so, enticing. Over the past 9 months, because I think we spoke probably a little bit before that, but has life kind of inspired you in your music writing these days over the past, let's say the past year with the pandemic? Has anything changed in you as far as what you're writing, what's coming out of your mouth, what you're writing on the paper, what your songs sound like? How does that kind of work from the musical mind of Jay Asadi?
Man, to be honest with you, this pandemic was nothing new. As far as it wasn't a new change in life, because I'm used to isolating myself when I'm working on my music, especially right now in this point. So this whole year, I actually created an album, and I was able just to really reflect and go back to places. So I didn't really write so much on the pandemic. Maybe on my third album, I might touch on it a little bit, but I mostly touched on just the mood I was feeling. I'm right now more anxious to get back out there. So I guess you can say my music is towards that, society returning back to normal.
Well, when you say your mood, because, there's a lot of psychology that's been going on. If you're a psychiatrist, if you're in that field, right?
Right.
The last year has been a field day for you. And we're going to have a psychologist come on in the near future to talk about some of the, not just pandemic issues, but just some psychological issues that people might be feeling these days.
Right.
But I want to ask you, as far as your mood goes, I felt a lot of highs and a lot of lows over the past year. I feel like I'm not necessarily alone in that. What kind of music can we expect from you? What kind of mood have you been feeling?
Oh man,
over the past year or so?
This album is crazy. And first of all, before we can get it started, congratulations on your 31st show. We gotta acknowledge it. Listen, you could have quit after 10. You're still going, man, and you're growing. It's got to be a good feeling.
Let's be very fair here, okay? I called her out the last time too. Martise, your wife, okay? Let's be very transparent. Has been an inspiration in keeping this thing going. She's been awesome and so helpful in helping me launch this thing. So I owe her a great deal of inspiration for that. So thank her, thank you, and guests like you also. Yeah. I do appreciate that.
And I'm thank her too. I got her on 2 of the songs on my album.
I heard her on the one track the last time when we were doing.
Yeah, and I got another song. I got another song called PA Lines. It went in a totally different direction, and I was able to use her vocals for that too. You know what I mean? Just I was creative this whole time.
That's amazing. You guys really are literally rock stars in every sense of the word. As not only as musicians and professionals, but as people. So I do appreciate that shout out. But yeah, and you've been a great guest. So kind of your mood. I want to hear because again, your lyrics are absolutely fascinating. I think that you listen to the lyrics and you have the feeling. I had a huge feeling last time. Some of the things I really felt almost personally, others I could felt almost indirectly, but either way I felt it. And I think that's really important when it comes to music. So you said that this album's kind of crazy. How so?
I mean, I touched on so many different emotions. I mean, it's not so much, this album's not as dark as the first album. I'll tell you that right now. There's a lot of inspirational music on there. I really wanted to make an album that my Aunt Ruth, who I told you has pancreatic cancer,
right.
I wanted this album to really her to be proud of. So I went in so many different directions. The people that have heard it, their mouths are dropping. They're like, when is this dropping? We need it. We need it. I'm dropping in Juneteenth. But right now I'm focused on trying to get a music video ready. But I wanted this album to be something that anybody that's a fan of mine, a friend of mine, family, whatever, is somebody that's our guy.
And how is your aunt doing? How is your aunt doing? Because I know we did talk about her.
She's still fighting.
Good for her. Well, power to her and regards to her as well.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm sure listening to your music, I'm sure is an inspiration to her.
Oh yeah, that's what keeps her going. She said.
Can music heal? I mean, when I say heal, I mean I know that mentally sometimes I know it can heal because a lot of people love bands, they love musicians because, and I've heard a lot of people say this where, when my best friend died, or when my parents got divorced, or when I was going through a depression, I listened to this artist.
Right.
I felt their lyrics and I felt their words and it really helped get me through. Talk a little bit about the role of music. You're even talking about your aunt here, who's obviously inspired by your words, physically and mentally as well. But is that actually accurate? Does music really help cure at least from a psychological standpoint, can it help you really cure people and help people get through tough times?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every time that I've had, something that you can't, I guess, express, you go to music. You're looking for something that's going to help express what you're feeling, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to go to music.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable because music, and I feel like I've really missed music over the past year. Not that I've stopped listening to music, but I know live music, which I want to talk to you about in a couple minutes. I want to ask this question because this is something that's been really, I found disturbing.
Okay.
And I found it even more so lately than ever before, but it's been going on for a long time. And we've talked about this over the past few shows a little bit. We've talked a little bit about race, and we've talked, we Women's History Month, we've done a couple shows on that. And I know that when you were on the show the first time, and I'd love to, just for anybody that has not listened to that show, go back and listen to it. But I do want to also touch on kind of your life a little bit today, because I know that you expressed some hardships in the first show. I know that you had dealt with some racial issues and some violence, issues with violence. And I thought that was extremely compelling the last time when you told that story. And what I'm finding is that these days, when it comes to things happening to people, there are many of those in society who, because they haven't seen something happen firsthand, they don't believe that it's actually happening. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think that a lot of people think that issues are generated by the media, and they're really not big issues. So, like, for example, if I haven't seen anybody use a derogatory term towards a Hispanic person or a Black person or a woman, then it's never happened because I haven't seen it, right?
Okay.
Or if I've never seen somebody sexually harassed in the workplace, it doesn't happen because I haven't seen it. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, because you've experienced so many things, and I think a lot of that comes out in your music. But I find it very troubling because I find it to be very naive and very narrow in the way people think. And I know it's been going on for a long time.
Right.
But what's your thought on that when you have a discussion with someone who maybe doesn't believe some of the things that, maybe even some of the things that you've experienced? I don't believe that. That sounds like it's so dramatic. Okay. And you know that it's happened. You've experienced it firsthand. Yeah. What kind of conversation are you having with somebody who's kind of denying, and it might not even be directly about you, but denying racism, denying sexism, denying things are going on?
I mean, well, it depends on what field that they're into. If they watch television, I'm gonna tell them to watch CNN, watch death row stories. That's a prime example. If you want to read a book, then I'm gonna tell you to read Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow. You know what I mean? It's everywhere. People are now coming forward and they're talking about it. If you don't believe it's happening, go to the cities and see what where they have Black Lives Matter murals and everything. It's happening. So you can't be naive and sit there and say that it's not happening when it is. They're ripping down Confederate statues. It's happening. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's being addressed. Now they're having the issues with the Asian American community,
right?
Where people are attacking that community, and it's like, what is it about? Is it about class? Is it about race? You can't talk about racism without talking about class, because economics plays a part. You can watch it in any movie. The Irish were mad at the Blacks because they felt like the Blacks were taking their jobs. You know what I mean? So right now what's going on, it isn't even about economics. It's just people having such a hatred towards people, and where's it coming from?
Well, that's a good point. Where is it coming from? And as I mentioned in the last show, I'm not going to go into this too much because I don't want to sound too redundant for people that listen to the last show. But
right,
I almost feel like these people who don't, who are, they're deniers of whatever, right? I just find that to be very scary. I find that to be a very scary mentality, because if they're denying it, that means there are other people that are denying it. Right. And how do we, if people are denying it now, how do we change that course?
But listen, Brian, how can we sit there and say that people are actually denying it when the FBI, because I watch the news, the number one terror group is the white supremacist groups. Their numbers have risen. So we can't sit there and say that there's nothing to deny.
Well, I agree. I mean,
you can, there's too many sources out there for you to sit there and say, wait a minute, something is going on right now.
a lot of people don't necessarily, well, and that's a good point, Jay, because I think that I'm not so sure. So when somebody denies something, well, I've never seen that happen. I've never seen it happen. I've only seen it on the news, and that's manufactured by the liberal media, right? I know we're getting real heavy here. We're getting off the music topic, which is what we do on the show.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
But I find that scary. So a lot of people are lazy, right? So they don't necessarily want to. I don't know that they necessarily, maybe they just want to remain sheltered and say, hey, this isn't happening. And if I believe it's not happening, then I can will myself to truly think it's not happening, right? Even if there are statistics, there's data, there's always going to be something that they can contradict. Well, that was manufactured by this media outlet, or that was manipulated by those people who just reported it. It's really not that big of a deal. And we have a history of denying things that happen, right? We have people that are denying, school shootings. People are saying that those are hoaxes, right?
Right.
People that deny the Holocaust ever happened.
Right.
And so there's a constant, and I'm not saying that somebody's saying that, well, I've never seen racism, so it doesn't exist. I'm not equating that to somebody saying the Holocaust didn't happen. That's a different level.
Well, they got people with tattoos on their forearms that you can tell have been there for quite some time. So I mean, I highly doubt, there's proof in the pudding, man. It happened.
It's scary that if people don't see it, they don't believe it, and I don't know how we change the course of that. I guess it's all of our responsibility. As I said in the last show, if you hear something happening and it's documented that it happened, violence or whatnot,
right?
And the fact is that if you deny it, it is coming. It's coming for you at some point, and I hope that nobody has to learn it that way, the hard way. But unfortunately, as I said in the last show, there's plenty of hate to go around. And you might be denying something that's happening, and you might see it firsthand, and it might be happening to you. So I'll leave it at that. Let me ask you this question, though, because I think that music plays such an important role in culture.
Right.
There's all different kinds of music. There's hip hop and rap and heavy metal and alternative and country and jazz, right? We talked about the jazz the last time and all
right.
And the roots of music.
Right.
But in today's world, how much of a responsibility do musicians like yourself have in the lyrics that they create and the lyrics that they publish? Because, you guys are influencers, right? And I know there are a lot of different definitions to that. But I feel like you have an added responsibility, whether you want it or not. I feel like that musicians have an added responsibility to customize or create lyrics that are even more compelling than normal. And I'm not saying that you need to be scripted and say, well, I believe in this. I believe in this.
I feel like you're alluding towards the Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion controversy as far
as that. Well, there is that too. That's a good point.
I feel like that's where you're going with this.
That's actually not where I was going. But I was going to ask you kind of personally. Do you feel when you're writing the lyrics down, you say, this is not just impacting me, this is not just my inspiration, but people are going to look at these lyrics and they are going to possibly think a certain way? What's your responsibility with that? And what do you say to that? To that point?
That's a tough question. Because when I'm writing my music, I'm not writing for anybody else but myself. Initially, as selfish as that might sound. I write with emotion. I write with what I'm feeling. I might go back and correct some phrases only because I feel like, hey, I might have went a little too hard, a little too in depth, and I don't want people to misperceive the message I'm trying to portray. But initially, I don't sit there and write and worry about how somebody is going to perceive my music. If you don't like my music, if you're not resonating with music, if you don't believe, then you can press fast forward. You can go on to the next artist. I'm not for everybody, just like your show might not be for everybody. Right. Who am I to sit there and say, what you feel about, why are you even having me on your show? We don't look anything alike. Our backgrounds are totally different, but we somehow found a connection.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like I said, some people are going to connect with your show. Some people are going to, and they might not. That's okay. You're at show 31. You're still growing. You're not for everybody, Brian. Neither am I.
Sometimes I'm not even for myself. Trust me.
That's honest, man. That's honest.
It is, and well, you actually, that's one of the reasons why I think we've connected so well, and one of the reasons why I love having you on the show is because of that honesty, that candor. it's kind of a no holds barred, right?
Right.
I don't think it is selfish. Well, let me ask you. I mean, you said that you write the music for yourself.
Right. It's therapeutic for me.
And I get that, and it does almost sound a little selfish, but it's absolutely not. I think that if you're not doing it for yourself, then why are you even doing it?
Incorrect.
I agree with that. And then for those for those with whom it does resonate, and it does happen, as you said, then they can listen to it and enjoy it and enjoy your art of creating music. But if they don't like it, as you said, they can either fast forward or not listen.
Right.
But do you think that most artists feel that way? Do most artists do it for themselves? I feel like sometimes on the commercial side of things, some songs seem to be written for pop culture and because I can make a lot of money off this song.
Right. And that's what I was just about to go to. For me personally, the songs that are, making the billboards, a lot of them aren't something that I can connect with or relate to, as far as, up and coming artists, or even if I wasn't a rapper. I don't know what it's like to be in a Lambo. I don't know what it's like to, pop bottles in the club. I've done it, before, courtesy of being around some certain individuals where I got to enjoy that. But me personally, to do it by myself, no, I've never done that. So when you're making music, talking about stuff like that, I'm looking for something that I connect with, that's something that talks about what's going on with me. And that's not going on with me. I don't see how a lot of the songs got where they were at, especially during the pandemic, because that wasn't what was going on with society. Right now, I feel like everything's just a fantasy, it's an illusion, and it's sad. I miss when songs were, you were scared to drop music because you were worried you were competing with top-notch music. I think the 90s was like the golden era, or the last era of like quality music for me, man.
Yeah,
as far as
it's become a lot. There's been a lot of fluff out there, I think, for music.
Yeah, man. And hey, people get mad at me or whatever, but listen to my music and then listen to them. I'm beating them.
And we're, I want to make sure we state this a few times, but people that want to find out more about you and hear your music, where can they find you?
Man, they can find me streaming on all major platforms. J Asadi, J.Asadi. You know what I mean? I'm everywhere. And if you can't find me, I'll mail you some music. We'll get it out there. Get in touch with Brian. We'll make it happen.
You get in touch with me, and we'll make sure. I really feel like it's one of those things that it is kind of life changing to hear some of those lyrics that you have. So check out Jay Asadi. We're here on the Ion Life podcast. Share us, follow us, like us. So I want to ask you this question because we talked about this the last time as well.
Right.
And I want to talk to you about inspiration. Okay. And I know that, every musical artist has their inspiration, right? And it may come, and some of it may be musical inspiration. Everyone has a certain sound, and, even some of the music that I didn't love, some of the classic rock that I never really got into, I know did influence some of the bands that I love today. So I respect that. But what kind of influenced you in the kind of music that you're creating? Are there any particular artists, any particular life events, any particular people, kind of all of the above? What's sort of been the ecosystem of your inspiration?
Well, first goes back to my grandfather, Mr. Thomas C. Crosby, World War II veteran, Purple Heart recipient. But he had his own company, taxi company, out of New York. He lived in the Bronx. And he left New York to come down and take me in, because I was in a group home, and I was reaching of age, and the state didn't know what to do with me. So my grandfather came down from New York and took me in, living in Pennsylvania. But I had a little job working with the city. I'd ride around cutting grass, and as soon as I get my paycheck, I would buy clothes and I buy CDs. I didn't know about investing as a teenager. And he was like, why would you keep buying all these CDs when you want to just start making your own and making some money? He's like, you smart. You've been through some things. You can put words together. And that always stuck in the back of my head. So why not take my life experience, my words, and give them to the people? And it doesn't even feel like work, what I do. I'm not making enough money to live off of my music yet. And I said yet, but it's something I want to do full time because it doesn't feel like work. But that's what inspired me, is knowing that I can actually do something that doesn't feel like work. I think that's the purpose of life.
As an aspiration, and I like that you said yet.
Right.
I am sure as someone who loves music, and I don't, it's one of those things too where, like, I'm not sitting here saying I'm a record producer, but I think if you listen to enough music, but I have 46 years of music experience. That's pretty solid.
Okay.
I'm not in the industry, but I've listened to a lot of music. So I like that you say the word yet, because there's no reason why, someone like you should not see that success, just based on the talent that you have. And I'm not just saying that because you're a guest. If I heard you and didn't know you as well,
thank you.
I'd say the same thing. But
yes, sir.
What is your aspiration as an artist? Because I've spoken to, we've had some musicians on the show.
Right.
Some do it as a hobby. Some, there's some cover bands. Some would, they do it as a hobby, but if it turned into something bigger, they would love that. And some of them are, we've had some great talent on the show, including yourself. So when you say yet, as far as doing this for a living, and I want to even ask you beyond, I know your aspiration is to do this professionally and to earn enough money for doing it full time.
Well, I'm doing it professionally. It's just not getting paid like a professional.
I get paid like a professional, exactly. So what is your aspiration then, as far as your music and taking your whole art to another level?
I want my music to be used for something. Whether it's, anthems, commercials, movies, it's, whatever, somebody making it their personal anthem, whatever. I want my music to be used for stuff. It's useful. It's a tool. It inspires people. I want to be remembered. I think any artist that makes the music, they want to feel like, they left their mark on the game. I mean, that's what we're all doing this for. I mean, there's a billion podcasts out there. You know what I mean, Brian? We got to give them something to talk about.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
To get them to come in here. So, I want what I think any artist that really loves their craft wants to be, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, wants the Grammys, the money and all that stuff is nice, but you want to know you were the man or the woman, whatever the case may be.
So what makes you different, Jay? I listen to your music, and it's like nothing I've ever heard before. It's unique. Sometimes you hear songs and music, and you're like, that sounds like this artist from 5 years ago. When I listen to your music, obviously you can hear inspirations in there. You can hear where maybe you've listened to some music and you say, oh, that maybe I hear a tad of that artist, and I can tell that that might be inspiring Jay. But you are different when you are marketing yourself, right? As a musician, as an artist, as an entrepreneur. What makes you different than others who are in similar situations that you're in, or even some of those who have already, quote unquote, made it big? What makes Jay different than anyone else?
I just never got my shot. That's all it comes down to. Right. I just never got my shot. I'm still waiting. So
how do you get? So how does? And I know this is the $1 million question. If you could answer this, I'm sure it'd be very easy. And I'm not asking for a literal answer here. But how does one get their shot? Is it a waiting game? Is it persistence? Is it keep putting out great music? What needs to be done to kind of get that shot? Is it something that you can make happen, or is it just going to happen?
It's the people got to talk about me. I mean, that's what everybody's looking for. What's the next what's the next best thing? I can only talk about myself so much. After it comes down to the music lovers, it comes down to the fans. Like you said, if I sound like nothing you ever heard, that should be like, it should be spreading like the gospel, man. You know what I mean? So I'm just waiting on the fans to do their part.
So that's part of this year. Check Jay out. You'll listen to it, you'll like it, you'll share it. We'll start a buzz going. Western Pennsylvania, you'll never be the same. And then we'll get out
yes,
and then beyond Western
Pennsylvania. We want the world to never be the same.
That's right. That's where we're headed.
I would like to see my music get so big that it actually would start a trend in music again, where people were doing heartfelt music and you would hear about, you feel that passion in music again. I would like to say my music could contribute to that. That's what I'd like.
Well, you're the ambassador. You're the guy to do it.
I'm working on it.
I want to ask you this question because, you made a really interesting point earlier. I never really thought about it. But you said the pandemic is it's really kind of the same, because when artists go into the studio, right?
Yes.
They're in there anyway for however long, right? They're really not out in public a lot. They're probably, I've seen a lot of these documentaries, right, where they're they're literally in the studio. They're doing all their eating and drinking and whatever else they're doing in there, right?
Yeah.
Social, all that. I won't go into everything that I've seen. You see like the Motley Crue one and you see what goes on.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, but live music has been something that's been missing, obviously, over the past year.
Right.
And I've talked about this a lot. I am yearning for live music, and I know you.
Yes, I'm yearning to do it.
I know you are, and I know you've done it several times.
Yes.
In several markets.
Yes.
So I want to ask you this question now: what's the difference when you're recording in the studio, and I know there are different takes. You do all that, and then you're performing live. From an emotional standpoint, because I know that's always been the big thing. Like when someone sings, they write songs, you want to hear their emotion.
Right.
The raw emotion of what their lyrics actually mean.
Yes, sir.
But what's the big difference between, aside from the obvious, the elements and all that, what's the difference between performing live and recording an album in the studio? As far as that raw emotion, I know obviously you're feeding off a crowd versus you're in a studio. Yeah. I know it's probably day and night, but just from the actual singing part.
Yes.
What's the difference? I've always been curious about.
I'm gonna tell you the difference, man. I'm getting excited with this one. Like when you have a song that you recorded in the studio and you get that finished product, it's like it's between you and your engineers, and depending on who's just in that studio. That's a serene moment. That, because we're actually the first ones to actually hear it, and you're like, that's a hit. That's a hit before you share it with the fans. Because I've already had my moment of my face lighting up when I have it done. And now it's my turn to watch you. Whether it's, when I play it in the car or play it at your house or do a live performance, I've already got to have my moment. So now I get to watch your face light up. But when you're in the studio, and I'm having that moment that you have the first time you heard my music. I got to have my moment in the studio.
Right. So it sounds like, I don't want to say preference necessarily, but I'll ask you, and I don't know what your thoughts are on what other artists might think, but do most people who are writing music, most artists prefer to kind of, they enjoy that, they kind of relish that whole studio piece, or do they love going on the road and doing that? Is that more of a high to them because there's tens of thousands of people cheering them on? How does that work? Is there a preference usually for some people or no?
I don't know. I mean, personally, me, I would like to be on the road, sharing my music and doing that, because now it's like the dream has become real. Right. Versus just staying in the studio. Obviously, I'm trying to grow my catalog. That's why I worked at the studio so much. You got artists that have over 100 some songs. I'm only at 40 some songs. But for me, when you're on the road, even doing something like this, the dreams becoming real. You know what I mean? Like, you're having me on your show. Hey, the dreams becoming real.
That's inspirational to hear you say all that. And I will say that you really do have a very authentic and raw way about you. And I hope you take that as a compliment, because it
no, I do. I'm like I said, I'm humble.
There's not a lot of that around, I feel like, these days, and I think that that certainly comes out in your music. I want to ask you. So speaking of being humble, right? I don't think there's anything more humble in the world than after you have a child.
Oh yeah.
And I know that you have a little guy there. And he's what is he? Is he a year and a half now too?
14 months.
Okay, I know. So I know somewhere in there, right?
Yeah.
And so the life that you've led and the challenges that you've faced from a very young age.
Right.
And you've talked about that before, and some of what you've overcome. Now you have a son.
Oh yeah.
Which is even much different, obviously, than even having a daughter, right?
Right.
They're both amazing. They're both miracles, but you haven't had the son.
Yes.
Is there anything about being a father that I want to say inspires your music? Obviously, you're inspired, I'm sure, from being a father. But is there anything in your music? Will we hear anything in your music that we hear? Oh, there's the father and Jay coming out. I hear that, or do you keep that kind of separate?
No. I just wrote one of my last songs. My song is called Bloodlines, and it's a really powerful song. I had the pleasure of getting Coach Marie on there, who actually sang backup for Mariah Carey. She's from New York, so check out for her. She's up and coming. She's actually on my All I Know soundtrack. But I made a line, referencing back to my Marine Corps, my days in the military. But I also made a reference saying, hey, anybody touch my kids, I'm going to kill you. And I meant that. You know what I mean? And it's not, I'm not trying to sound like a bad guy, but I'm just speaking from as a parent standpoint. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to talk about going after people's kids and, this, that, and the third. Well, guess what? You picked the right one, come from mine.
Well, again, I think that a lot of people probably think that, but don't necessarily want to say it.
Well, they don't have no music to say it. Nobody's really putting their family on the forefront. I mean, one of my friends, he told me, he said, everybody loves somebody. And if you listen to my music, I'm always talking or giving appreciation or love to somebody. I got a lot of loves, man.
It sounds like for you, Jay, also, again, this going back to the how compelling the lyrics are of your music. This sounds like a relief. You obviously have a lot to say.
Yes, sir.
Some of the things, some of the things may not be when I say acceptable in quotes, right? Not be acceptable to say in society.
Right.
But it's like this release of music that you have, and that's a forum to express maybe some of those feelings that you have.
Right.
I think that while some people might agree that you touch my kid, I'll kill you, you'll have other people say, oh, you can't say that. You might think that. You can't say it. But does your music give you a way to say things that you might not be able to say out at a bar or out at a dinner function or to a family member? I mean, I know you're pretty much you're real in real life and in music, but does it give you this forum to kind of speak out on things that you might not talk about in public?
Yeah, I mean, because like if me and you were having a disagreement about something and it becomes very heated and we start having an exchange, I have to be careful how I articulate myself. I have to use phrases that are ambiguous, just in case, charges are ever filed and somebody and you have to explain. It's an ambiguous statement. You can take it how you want to take it.
Right.
Versus when I'm on the record, I can be literal.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so powerful. I think that's what's so fun, even fun, and the whole creative piece of music. And we touched on, and again, not everybody has seen the first show with you. I suggest, I don't remember what number that was, but you have a great story. I don't want to go too much back into that today.
Yes, sir.
But I did, I did want to kind of just touch a little bit about, kind of your next steps. We know you have a big vision here, and you have a lot. You've written a lot of music over the past year, and I know I can tell you're ready. I mean, I can tell that you're busting to get back out there. Where are you going from here? You have the family, you had the pandemic. Things are starting to loosen up a little bit throughout the country. Some places more than others, right? Let's hope. Hopefully, some of these venues are going to start to open up, at least in with some capacity, right?
Right.
What are kind of your next steps for your music and your life?
Well, in May, I got a meeting with a record label that's been getting pushed off because of the pandemic. I've been waiting a year and a half. I don't know if anything's going to transpire from that. I mean, it's like I said, it's been being postponed. We have to be optimistic. But I mean, I'm just going to keep on creating. I was already in a movie that's debuting in May, or supposed to debut in May. Still Me in the movie. I had a small role in that. 3 of my songs were used for the soundtrack or for the movie, for some of the scenes in the movie. So that's one thing. I'm hoping to keep on, getting the acting, keep on contributing, anything I can do, anything to stay active. But, like I said, getting back to, the music and the creativity, when I create, I'm using the First Amendment, the freedom of expression. I'm just expressing myself. You know what I mean? And I think that, a lot of people might take your words to a literal sense where, somebody might say, after such and such, or after this person and this, that, and the third. That's an expression. You don't have to literally take what somebody's saying and let it control you, where you have to blindly follow. I remember when Eminem was speaking about, the whole situation when they were, all the gun violence that kids were going on to. And he was getting a lot of flack, and, other artists were getting flack. It's like, yeah, I made the music, but I'm not the one that's in control of such and such's brain, where it's like you literally pick that up. That's like, you're going to watch a movie and automatically go out there and, you know, try to emulate that person. I mean, it's people are they're being too easily influenced by the wrong things. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I, you know, I've talked about this several times, but I feel like, and I don't want to minimize, you know, people feel how they feel about things, right? I understand that. And I really, I do judge sometimes. I think we all do a little bit. So I'm not going to sit here and be a hypocrite about it.
Right.
But I also do believe that there seems to be a lot of sensitivity out there.
Oh, yeah.
Right now. I feel like anything that is said, you know, you're always walking on eggshells with, right, something that might be said. And I really
I'm in the boat.
Yeah, you're right. And same thing, right? And I genuinely believe that there are times where somebody might, and I'll use music as an example, right? Obviously, that's what we're talking about. Someone might hear a lyric and be offended by it. And again, this is going to sound like I'm minimizing, and I am a little bit, right? But it might not be the lyric that's offensive. They're choosing to be offended by it.
Right.
And I just feel like today that there's a lot more of that than ever before. People are choosing to get offended by the most benign things.
Right.
And to your point before, if you don't like it, then don't listen to it. You have every right not to. Right. It's not hurting you.
Right.
If you think it's hurting society, I can't help you there, because the music is not hurting. Trust me. Music is not hurting society.
Brian, what are you comparing me to if my music is that offensive? What are you comparing me to? There's a lot worse.
There's a lot worse. So let's not sit here and say, well, this fits my narrative today. That lyric by Jay Asadi, that really offends me, because today it fits my, it fits my narrative. Tomorrow, because that's another thing that's very scary. I said before about people kind of brushing off, violence and racism just because they haven't seen it.
Right.
It's the same thing with being offended and being overly sensitive. If you're offended by something like benign, you're always going to find something to be angry about.
Right.
And that's why that's why I have the term Karen now, right? Because they have all these Karens, right? The Karen.
Yeah.
And just to be fair, men, I don't even know what the men are called. Peter, whatever they are.
Right.
I don't even know, Kevins or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
So it's not just I'm not saying it's one sex or the other. It's everyone. But I just feel like if you
a good point though.
Where do we stop the offensive? Where does it end?
I think, like I said, it goes back to that song that let's give them something to talk about. I think Sheryl Crow sang it, or one of them ladies sang it. I don't know. But that's all people are doing. They're just trying to go viral to give somebody something to talk about. That's all it comes down to. People are trying so hard to go viral. You got people that are standing there getting insulted, getting called all these racist terms and all this stuff, and they're just pulling out their phone. What happened to the day when somebody insulted you, you either walked away, you slapped them in the face. You didn't have time to pull your phone out. You know what I mean? You weren't thinking about pulling your phone out.
Right.
Now people are watching people get their heads kicked in, and instead of going in to stop it or to intervene, they want to pull their phones out. They rather try to go viral than correct the situation.
They're trying to get their fame, and I think it was Sheryl Crow's a great song, but Bonnie Raitt, I believe.
Right.
But the reason I had to say is because I have to. Bonnie Raitt. I probably shouldn't admit that I know that, but that's a great song, and you're right. And we always have to give someone something to talk about, right? That's
all it comes down to.
And I understand, and I'm not saying there's nothing out there to be offended by. Trust me, there's plenty to be offended by. If somebody uses a derogatory word or they shame someone for something, I understand. I'm not saying don't ever get offended.
Right.
But pick your battles, because if you don't pick your battles, you will be offended by when the birds are singing in the morning. You're going to start to get offended by that. The way trees grow, you're going to start to get offended by that. The color of a house, you're going to start to get offended by that.
Yep.
We have to kind of pick and choose our battles a little bit. I mean, just a little.
It's gonna get to the point where it's like, remember, you ever seen the movie Demolition Man? Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes.
I did see.
It's gonna get to that point in society where you're gonna get that little ticket coming off you swear. You know what I mean? That's the direction we're headed to, man. Well,
at some point we'll run out of things to say.
Exactly.
If we keep going with this trajectory here, right, of being offended, we will literally run it. We will literally there'll be 3 or 4 sentences that everybody has to write down on a piece of paper. When you go out in public, those are the three or four things you're allowed to say without offending somebody.
Right.
That's where we're headed.
I believe you.
So
because it's, instead of if you offend me, I can return with a different offense. I can offend you just as quickly as you offend me. You know, but now it's all like, oh, he offended me. We turned into a tattletale society where, you know, before we were kids, you never stop tattling. Now all of a sudden, well, he said this to me, she said that to me. Right. You know, it's all tattletale.
It is, and I think I'm not sure if I've always been a fan of the band 9 Inch Nails. I don't know if you like 9 Inch Nails at all. I love that. That's a really deep, dark, you know, Trent Reznor they do. And I think it was the Downward Spiral was the name of one of their albums, if I recall correctly. And that's kind of where we're headed. I feel like that downward spiral. If we keep it this direction. Right. Before I let you go, I want to wrap up here. 2 more questions for you. I alluded to this before, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people throughout my life when it comes to music. There are a lot of bands that I don't like. You know, there are certain bands that I've gotten arguments. It's almost like I've lost friends by saying like, well, I really don't like Pink Floyd or I hate Led Zeppelin. I think they're overrated or whatever. I just had a conversation with my high school friends. We were talking about the Eagles. I was like, they're so overrated, right? But I do understand. But I do understand the influence that some of these bands have had. There's some musicians I look at and I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. But there are some that I look and I don't get. But you know, they've been influential. They've influenced some of the bands that I like. Let me ask you this question, because I've talked about the band Nickelback a lot on the show. People hate a lot on Nickelback. Can you not like a song? Can you immensely dislike a band, but still listen to the music and at least appreciate it? Or if you don't like it, you forget it. I'm wondering, because I've gotten arguments with people about this before.
I can. But it's got to be in the mood though, because it's like you really got to want to hear that song, or maybe it might be in a group setting where a song comes on and everybody starts I don't know. You know, I'm real picky with my music. You know what I mean? I don't sit there and say, oh, this artist is this artist is that. If that's the case, there's so many people we wouldn't even listen to if we looked at, you know, their personal life versus their artistic ability. There's like so many people you can find a disagreement with, and I'm not even going to sit there and divulge in people's history, but, you know, like there's, you know, you're just going to always find something that you could sit there and say, well, you shouldn't listen to him or her or whatever the case may be. I mean, come on, man. That's life.
I agree. And I sort of feel like, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this. I kind of feel like I could pretty much go to any concert and at least enjoy it, even if I didn't like the band. And again, it would have to be like free tickets. I'm not spending money to see a band I don't like.
Okay. Yes.
But I respect music so much though, and there might be a couple that I would, you couldn't even if you paid me, I probably wouldn't go. Right. But I feel like just like in life, right? I feel like there are things that you might not be into, but that you can still go and enjoy. And I kind of feel like that with music too. I feel like that if you gave me a lifetime pass to a venue, I'd probably go to just about every concert, even if I didn't like that. I'd give it a shot. I appreciate the environment. I love live music. I appreciate the fact that the artist has some form of a talent, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing that I can't stand, a big concert pet peeve of mine. Let me know again. You know I overreact.
Okay.
One of my biggest pet peeves. I hate when you go to a concert and the artist has the crowd singing along with him or her.
Okay.
I didn't pay money to come hear the crowd sing. I came to hear you sing. This is not carpool karaoke.
He said, okay.
You sing. I don't need to hear 30,000 people singing it. You might get high off of that. I get that. So Jay, just do me a favor. If I know at some point I'm going to see you live because I'm going to make the trip to see you live at some point. Just do me a favor. Please don't do that.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. If you do it, I will not shame you if you do it. But do you agree with that? I mean, you're there to see you. I'm there to see you. So I'm not there to hear the people sing.
I mean, it depends on the song. If the people start singing, I'm not gonna sit there and tell them. I'm not gonna silence them. I mean, if people know your music, it's a great feeling as an artist. I'm laughing because you want the people to feel included. You want to, as an artist. You want to keep the people, that's like if you're a comedian, or if you go to a comedy show, you don't want to be the guy that the comedian points out. You want to, but you want to feel in part of the show. You know what I mean? You'll laugh at the other guy that got pointed out, but you'll be like, I hope you don't pick me up. But, they want people to feel part of the show.
I can tell you, I can tell you this right now.
Right.
And I, again, we talk about a lot of pet peeves on the show, and trust me, I have plenty of them, and I'm sure there are certain things about that I do that bother other people. Right. If I were a musician, I probably would, even though I can't stand it right now, if I were a musician, I'd probably be like, that's awesome, 30,000 people singing my lyrics.
Exactly.
But I still say don't do it. I'm sticking to that, don't do it, but people like you can get away with it. I'm not gonna question that. But I do understand you do make a valid point.
Yeah.
So the final question I want to ask you, speaking of live music.
Okay.
I feel like that once live music comes back here, whether it's a full capacity or a 3/4 capacity at a venue, whatever it looks like, I feel like that people are going to come out in droves. I feel like
it's going to be like, get ready for Woodstock, man. It's going to be like Woodstock 2021. People are about to go crazy. Tops are coming off and people are going crazy, man. Get ready.
So you're answering my question then. So, so you do, because you do hear things, especially like in sports. Well, now that we haven't had this for a year, are people going to come back? Are they going to come back and go to live sporting events? Because, there are still people who might be like, I don't want to be around a lot of people. There are some people who might not want to do it financially.
Right.
And people might still be, people might be a little paranoid about going out in public, even if we have our vaccines. And I completely respect that. But so you do believe that people will be coming back out to concerts and they will be as hardcore as they ever have been before.
Oh, man, people are looking to have fun. People want to have fun. Fun's going to always trump everything. You know what I mean? Fun's going to crush everything. Compared to whatever, people are going to pick fun. They want to have fun.
I can tell you this, okay? I consider myself to be a very thrifty person, right?
Right.
Maybe even bordering on cheap, but I really don't consider myself cheap. I consider myself smart, right? Like the budget.
I respect it.
But I will say this: I cannot wait to buy a $20 beer at a concert. I would give so much right now to buy a $20 beer.
And beer companies love to hear that.
I know they do. And I'll tell you something. Of course, once I buy that first one, I'll be like, I didn't really miss this too much. I should have just had a few before I went into the show.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. Buying, I think that's going to be great for merchandisers, for the beer companies, for the venues. People are going to go out to these concerts, and they're going to spend like drunken sailors.
Yes.
Because they're yearning for it. And I'm one of those people. I'll be like, hey, I haven't spent money on a concert in over a year. I'm going all out.
Yes.
So I'm excited. Are you a big proponent of concert T-shirts, or are you kind of like?
Oh man, listen, I got T-shirts coming out. I'm trying to get some hoodies. I mean, you want your name out there. You know what I mean? You want people to wear your stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that.
You have merchandise? You have merchandise, right?
Yeah, I got T-shirts right now. I'm trying to get some hoodies put together. More for the winter. I got cups that they got my logo on there and the autograph on the back there. I got a little stuff like that. I got a website. I got to upload some stuff. It's a lot of work, man, when you're an independent artist. Like, it was a lot of stuff I've been learning. So I had to get some merchandise. When I first started this, I wasn't even thinking merchandise. But then people were like, you need to come up with merchandise. All right.
You absolutely do. Yeah. That's the entrepreneur in you as well. Send me the links. I was recently, somebody bought me a Nickelback shirt.
Okay.
Which I will wear proudly. I tell people on the show, listen to the show, you send me a shirt, I'll wear it on the air. I have not worn the Nickelback shirt yet, but I will.
Okay.
But and that's, I don't want to say it's a joke. It's not a joke. I actually do like the band Nickelback, but I need the link for yours because if I'm going to have a Nickelback shirt, I need to have a Jay Asadi shirt as well. To kind of, just to balance the rock and roll with the.
I even have face masks. I don't know how long we're going to need them, but I even had those out.
I need a face mask and I need a T-shirt for Jay Asadi. So send me that link and I'll get it out there too. We'll get it out to the masses. And as always, it's great talking. We'll get you back on again once things start to pick up a little bit in music business, right? I want to have you come back on and talk a little about, especially once you're touring. I want to talk to you before the tour because I want to get ready for that. I want to get people hyped up for that because I'm sure that is going to be something that is completely like nothing that we've ever seen. So Jay Asadi, again, you can find Jay on every social media channel, Spotify, iTunes, all that, right? You're on all of it.
Yes.
And if you're going for a jog, you're at the gym, it's for you. If you're chilling out, it's for you. If you're feeling good about things, it's for you. If you're feeling bad about things, it's for you. It's really for everyone. Try it. I'm telling you, you will feel it. I can tell you that much. I would never guarantee somebody would like music because everybody has their own taste, but I can tell you that you will feel this and it will be certainly an experience for you. So, Jay, I want to thank you for joining us on for the second time. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure. You and Martise are are amazing and inspirational, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I want to thank our sponsor, Must NY. I want to thank all of our listeners, everyone who's downloading from everywhere. Thank you so much. It means a lot. We can't do the show without you. In the meantime, keep an eye on music, keep an eye on Jay Asadi, and as always, keep an eye on life. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.